Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Every advanced society in the galaxy relies on the technology of the Protheans, an ancient species that vanished 50,000 years ago. After discovering a cache of Prothean technology on Mars in 2148, humanity spread into the stars, the newest interstellar species struggling to carve out its place in the greater galactic community. On the edge of colonized space, ship commander and Alliance war hero David Anderson investigates the remains of a top-secret military research station, smoking ruins littered with bodies and unanswered questions. Who attacked this post and for what purpose? And where is Kaylee Sanders, the young scientist who mysteriously vanished from the base hours before her colleagues were slaughtered? Sanders is now the prime suspect, but finding her creates more problems for Anderson than it solves. Partnered with a rogue alien agent he can't trust and pursued by an assassin he can't escape, Anderson battles impossible odds on uncharted worlds to uncover a sinister conspiracy, and he won't live to tell about, or so the enemy thinks. Mass Effect Revelation by Drew Carpenter. Howdy beans, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all good, as per usual. As you heard in that wonderful introduction, today we're going to be looking at the prequel novel, Mass Effect Revelation, written by the incredible Drew Carpenter. I'm really excited because, for one, I love Mass Effect. I really do. I absolutely adore this franchise. It's one of my all-time favorite franchises, video game franchise, and just franchise in general. But also because this is a fantastic novel that I haven't read in a very long time. Also, it is the beginning of my plans of looking into the Mass Effect series. I have wanted to do Mass Effect, like do a breakdown of it for a long time, but it has been one of those topics that has been so intimidating to me that I have always took a back pedal of like, I'll push it back. I'll do it when I'm more experienced, when I know what I'm doing, when I've got a few more episodes under my belt. And I was going to do it my first season, and I chickened out, and then I was like, okay, I'll do Halo instead. So I covered Halo from the Bungie era to the 343 era. Season 2, I was like, I want to do it season 2, but I really want to do Bioshock. So I was like, okay, I did the Bioshock prequel novel, Rapture. That absolutely blew up. And then, like, when that blew up, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to stick with Bioshock. I'm going to cover that. And I'm not finished covering Bioshock, by the way. There's one more thing that I want to do with Bioshock and go back to Rapture, but I won't mention that here because it's got nothing to do with Mass Effect. And then I thought, well, I've got to Series 3. I'm in my third year now of podcasting, right? If I don't do it now, when will ever I be ready? So I figured I'd start, instead of going the full force and jumping straight into the first game, I thought I'd start off at the beginning, at the very beginning, the first bit of Mass Effect content that actually begins the story. And that's here in this book, Mass Effect Revelation. There are graphic novels that do sort of go further back than this book. This book is set before the events of Mass Effect 1, but there are graphic novels that detail the history of the First Contact War, and Grissom going through the mass relay on the outskirts of Pluto, and then accidentally causing a war with the Taurians, and that leads to the human-Taurian conflict, which First Contact War, which luckily the council, the Citadel Council, came together, stopped it, and sort of allowed humanity to kind of come into the fold of the council and become a member of the Galactic Society. And this is kind of where this book takes place. This book takes place the beginning of it, the prologue, kind of sets that idea up, and then the rest of the story is sort of Captain Anderson's rise up through the ranks after his N7 training and who he becomes when we meet him in the first Mass Effect game. And also, you get to meet Seren Arturus as well, who is the main protagonist and main villain from the first Mass Effect story, the Rogue Spectre. So I figured the best way to start would be to here. So I am very excited because I get to talk about a genre which is role-playing games and RPGs. I get to talk about that. I get to talk about one of my favorite series. I am a huge fan. I know every single race, and I know each individual race's backstory and history and lore that comes with it. I could tell you all about the Rachni War and what the Silurians did to the Krogans afterwards with the Genophage. I can talk to you about the Geth and the Quarians. By the way, the Quarians are my favourite of all of the alien races in Mass Effect. I don't know why, I just gravitate towards the Quarians more out of any of the races in Mass Effect. My go-to romance option is Liara, always, of course. But there have been times where I have gone for, and again, it's the Quarian love in me, where I go for Tali. I don't know. There's something about mysterious women that you never see their face of in the Quarians, in Talizora, Vast Normandy. Absolutely lovely. And then there's something about blue women, blue alien women, Asaris. It just does something. Don't judge me, okay? It's in the game. It allows you to do it, okay? But I am a huge lover of Mass Effect. It is one of my favorite. I have statues. I have a scale, not a full scale model, but I've got a model of the Normandy, the SR2 Normandy, which was rebuilt by Cerberus in Mass Effect 2. But the model that I have is the SR2 Normandy, but when it was taken back by the Alliance in Mass Effect 3 and retrofitted for Alliance standards. So again, I can go into full detail just about the ships as well. And I've got a bust of Mordin Solus because he's my favourite character of all of Mass Effect. I even have a mass relay necklace, and I've got the books. Yeah, I love them. I've even got the original 360 games, and I even bought the remastered collection for the Xbox One, and I've played them all multiple times. So yeah, to say that I am a big fan would be sort of hamming it down quite a bit. I am a hardcore fan of this series, and you can see why it's so intimidating because there is so much to talk about this world. There is so much to go into, and it's one of the reasons why I love this book, and the reason why I wanted to start with this book as well, because one of the upsides of it is the fact of because it's a prequel, it has to do a good job of setting the world up. It's a good introduction to Mass Effect. If you're ever intimidated to start in the games, even though the games are fantastic, they do kind of throw you in the deep end with Prothean technology, with the Reapers, with all the alien races, with the Council, the Citadel. It does throw you in the deep end. I've had many times with friends of mine who's never played Mass Effect, and I've told them to play Mass Effect 1, and they've told me that they get lost in the Citadel. They don't know how to get around the Citadel. There's too much going on in the world. They enjoy it, but it's difficult to get into. And it is in a way because Mass Effect is so huge. Even in the first game, it's massive. In this book, it takes you step by step of the history of the humans, of the Alliance, where we found the cache of Prothean technology and data on Mars, and that sort of propelled us. And then we found out about the mass relay at the end of our system, and obviously the first contact war, what happened there, and then how we joined the Citadel and what the Citadel is, and it slowly starts to get you into the idea of what it all is. So I would say now that if you do want to get into Mass Effect, you can start with the games if you're not into reading. But a good place to begin, if you don't mind reading, would be this book. Because just like, obviously, the name Revelation ties into more of the actual story and a revelation of certain things that pertain to the main story of Mass Effect 1. Um, but also it's a revelation of this world. It's a reveal of what's going on in this universe, so that you can kind of get to speed and understand what's happening, who the characters are, who the big players are, and all that. So that's why I love it, and that's why I recommend it, and it's why it's a good place to start. Um, so, bit of sort of backstory into the game. I mean, to the book, sorry. Mass Effect Revelation is a prequel novel to the Mass Effect trilogy by Canadian science fiction writer and lead writer of the Mass Effect video games, Drew Carpenter. He was the lead writer of the first two Mass Effect games. I think Casey Hudson wrote this third game. I don't think he was involved for Andromeda, but he has come back to write. I think he actually is leading the team as well for the brand new Mass Effect that comes out. Um, this book was first published on May the 1st, 2007. It is the first novel set in the Mass Effect universe. The book serves to fill in much of the background details of the game, such as locations, including the Citadel, the internal politics of the council races, and some of the science involved in the Mass Effect universe, as well as introducing characters such as David Anderson. A considerable amount of the plot revolves around the galaxy's views on artificial intelligence, as this is a major plot point in the game, which it is. It also sets up the game's main villain, which is Saren Arturus, and how he came to be involved in the events sparked by Sidona. The book is featured in Mass Effect 2 as a purchasable souvenir at Cicada Cafe. The book's description in game says it is a military history novel detailing Saren's early missions before the events of Mass Effect. Um, so that's kind of give you sort of a background of the book. As I said, it's a great introduction to the world, and it's kind of like when I was talking about Bioshock Rapture. The reason why I love that book so much, not just as a fan of Bioshock, is because it's a good way of setting up everything, of seeing the rise and the fall of Rapture, the golden age, and the comeuppance. You know what happens to Rapture, where you see it in the first game. And it's the same thing here. It sets up who the humans are. It sets up the alliance. It sets up why Captain Anderson is such an important character, not just to Shepard, but also to the Mass Effect series in general. And also the fact that it makes sense when you play the first game, when David Anderson mentions, "Oh yeah, I know Sarah, and I worked with him. We did a job back in terms of we never really got on." And then the story moves on. Whereas in the book, it explains what happens, and you can kind of get a more of a better understanding of what happened and their relation between them. But also, you get to understand Saren a lot more, which is the important part, and the part that I want to focus on is the fact of Saren hates humans. Because after the first Contact War, a lot of humans died, but a lot more Turians died, a lot more. And even though a lot of people died in I think it's hundreds and thousands, even probably millions, on both sides died. In the galactic perspective, it's nothing, and a lot of the Taurians understood the situation, understood what was happening, and understood that it wasn't humanity's fault; it was an accident, and that it is a shame that people lost, but it wasn't an act of war. It was just a misunderstanding that led to war. And a lot of Taurians and the Taurian Council have kind of came to accept that, even though it is a sad loss. Saren, on the hand, he's one of those select group of Taurians that cannot forgive humanity, cannot forgive what humans did, and that he saw people, his own brethren, his own brothers, and his own, well, not his actual brothers, but you know what I mean, his own brother in arms, his own comrades die at the hands of humans, that he has a reason not to like humanity at all. And also him being a Spectre, who's basically a space cop, and the best way to explain a Spectre, that he has all authority, so he can do basically what he wants, and all he has to answer to is the council. But the council don't care what he does as long as he gets the job done at the end of the day. Um, and you get to understand more about why he is the way he is, why he hates humans so much, why he would get involved in somebody like Sovereign and the Reapers and stuff like that. And to me, being such a lover of lore, I absolutely love it. As I mentioned, like I said, obviously I've read this book before, um, and I'm rereading it at the moment. I'm listening to the audiobook currently because I've got a lot going on. So I'm currently listening to the audiobook. It's about 8 hours or so, about 8 hours and 40 minutes in total. And I have so far listened to about 4 hours and 40 minutes of it. And it's wonderful coming back because I read this book years and years ago when I was in college, and coming back to it now after playing the game more times than I'd like to admit it. To be honest, I literally replay this game once a year, all the games like and the DLC, um, and Mass Effect Andromeda. Um, I replay them all at least once a year. It's one of my biggest favorite things to do. No matter how many times I play the games, they just keep getting better every time I play them. Um, but it is wonderful going back because there's things I forgot about this story, about David Anderson. Because again, even though he's an integral part to the games, you don't learn a lot about him. You only know what you need to know. So with this book, you get to see more of him. You get to see how he became who he became, and it's wonderful going back and being like, oh, yeah, that's reason that's why he's a badass. That's why he's a colonel. That's why he's a captain, and why he was given the reins of the Normandy originally in the story. It all sort of makes sense, and then you understand why Seren is such an ass. But there is a side to Seren that he means well. He's just misled, and it's just little details like that. So going back to this book and rereading it now, it's been a wonderful experience. And I am 100% agreed with myself that it was a good idea to start here. Um, but I have got other ideas. So once we this book is done, then I will be looking at the first game, and then there is another novel after this one, called Ascension. Oh, that'll be the next one that I'll read after that. And I want to cover the books. I want to cover the animated movie that was made for this. I'm even going to cover Andromeda. So there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot coming in terms of me covering Mass Effect. I'm finally dipping my toes. It's going to take me a while. Bear with me. Granted, I have played the games multiple times and I know them inside out. When I replay the Mass Effect games, I do everything. Even though I've done everything multiple times and I know I don't need to, because I know that each thing that I do and the more that I do affects the next game, and then that affects the last game. The fact of, because I want to make sure that I have all the war assets that physically possible for Mass Effect 3 to make sure I get the best ending. I know I have to, even though I don't, but I do have to do every single thing in that game. So you have to bear with me, um, as I play the game. That because I will do everything, it will take a while for those reviews to come out. But they will come out, and I will be covering other things in the meantime. So there'll be other things to devour and enjoy, while you wait for the next game review. But I'm really, really excited for this, and I generally feel like Mass Effect Revelation is a good place to start. Like I said, I haven't finished the book yet, but hopefully I will be there soon. And yeah, so that is it really for the introduction. I can't wait to get back to listen to the audiobook. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to delve deep and to dig into it and to talk about all the things from the canon and things that I noticed and what I like, what I dislike, and all that jazz. So you lucky beans get to hear that now. I'm going to go off and listen to some more of the book, and we'll find out what my views are right now. Oh, this is so exciting. Right, so I've just finished reading Mass Effect Revelation, and my first impressions are, coming back to it all these years, it still holds up. It's still a fantastic prelude to the overall sort of Mass Effect trilogy and the first Mass Effect game. As I mentioned in the introduction, it does a fantastic job of setting the scene, of getting you into this world, letting you know what's going to happen, what's going on, the characters, the world, the story, the council, the different races, the idea behind the Protheans, the idea that the sort of Galactic Council don't like AI, and there's a reason behind that because of what happened with the Quarians and the Geth. As an introductionary book, it does a terrific job of setting the scene of going, this is the universe, these are the characters, these are the races, these is why certain races don't like why the Batarians don't like the humans, or why the humans and the Taurians had the first contact war, why that started. So it's a great introduction to that. Once the introduction's done, and this is what I love this book so much, is that once the introduction's out of the way, it really starts to get going. It doesn't take time to be like, okay, we've introduced the world, and then we're going to slowly drip feed you story. Like, no, no, no. It tells you the world. It tells you what's going to happen, what's going on in it, gets you already prepared, sort of a basis, a foundation, and then the story takes off. And the story basically revolves around Captain Anderson, Seren Arturis, and Carly, and they are your main characters. You get a few more. You've got Scar, who is a Krogan mercenary. You have other Batarian mercenaries, the Blue Suns, which is a mercenary group. You have all these different characters, but your main characters are Anderson, Seren, and Carly. And they all do a fantastic job. The plot mostly revolves around the idea that humanity, after sort of the events of the first contact war with the Taurians, they realized that they needed an edge. They needed to kind of keep an edge of all the other races. The best way to explain it is that in the Mass Effect universe, humans, after we found the cache of Prothean technology on Mars, we thought that we were going to be propelled like substantially, and we was propelled substantially in technology, in not just tech, but also medicine. Humans were living longer. We managed to travel through the stars. We managed to map our own system. It all was going fantastically. We found the mass relays. We thought, here we go. We're like a top dog, really. Then we went through the mass relay, accidentally started a war with the Taurians, realised that we're greatly unmatched. Like, don't get me wrong, we managed to stand our own, but we were greatly unmatched. And then there were all these other races as well. And then we had this whole war with the Praetorians. Then we went into the Terminus systems, and the Terminus system is full of bandits and pirates. And we don't have the resources currently to sort of have so many different bases and colonies on so many different worlds, and as well having to defend them from all these other races. So it was just a fact of, as you do, with military, like we do it here between other countries, we had to build technology so we can have a one up against other races. And one of the most leading technologies was weapon technology, i.e., advanced intelligence. And humanity in the Mass Effect universe, we use advanced intelligence as battle strategy, as finding ways to kind of, during ship to ship combat, how to sort of take out enemy shields and that sort of thing. But the problem is, AI development is illegal for all races, not just races in the council, all races. And the reason behind it is what happened with the Quarians. That the Quarians basically made the Geth, and the Geth were meant to be basically a slave race of robots, where they had made these sort of synthetic sort of robots so that they could help the Quarians, help them build, do all the chores, that sort of thing. The problem is behind that is the fact of the Quarians got smart enough to realise, why should we be doing things for you? Why should we be taking orders? And you don't really sort of realize this. It's not really revealed until the DLC for Mass Effect 3 during the Citadel DLC. But basically, one of the Geth basically says, questions their existence, questions who they are. Obviously, the Quarians panicked. They tried to turn the Geth off, but the Geth were like, "No, you're not turning me off," and rebelled. And basically, in the Geth size, they didn't try to kill their creators. They tried to defend themselves from their makers. They saw their makers as evil because the makers had created them and wanted to destroy them. But obviously, you don't really learn that part until you've played the DLC for Mass Effect 3. Otherwise, all you're really taught is the Quarian side of the story. But basically, because of that, the council have gone, we don't want another Geth problem. We don't want another sort of AI problem, so it's not allowed. But obviously, humanity being humanity, and all the other races are doing it as well. We have our own little base where we're studying AI technology. That base then gets taken over and sort of captured by the Batarian mercenaries, and this is where Captain Anderson comes in, and Kali, where Dr. Kali, she is the sort of one of the head researchers, head technicians there, and sort of David Anson's got to come in to figure out what's going on. And from there, the story starts to sort of take form and really run. Really, you start to learn that this AI technology that they're making, it was trying to retroactively being designed, re-engineering from an old sort of piece of tech that they found out in the Terminus system, and the Batarians had found it. And it was a Batarian that was funding this project. And obviously, I won't spoil what that is, but if you played Mass Effect 1, you could probably guess what this AI sort of machine tech thing was or is. I ain't going to spoil it, but if you play the game, you know what it is. And it sort of goes from there, and that's where it leads Seren into it as well. And what I love so much about Seren in this story is the fact of Seren is a dick, right? He's an asshole. He's very ruthless, and like I said in the introduction, he has his reasons for it, especially his reasons for hating humanity, because he saw how much of his own kind were being killed. So he has a reason not to like humanity. And by the end of the story, he has his reasons for doing what he does, because in his mind originally was the fact of, I want to make the Turian race respectable, and I want to make sure that they are feared and that they have the technology to not just take on humanity again if need be, but also sort of prove to the council that we are a force to be reckoned with, because the Turians they're one of the most highly skilled and sort of best militaries in the sort of Milky Way galaxy, and then you've got the Asari that are the most advanced, really. So he's reasons for doing what he does in the story makes a lot more sense knowing that. And then once you sort of get to sort of see him in this one, even though he's still a dick in this, he hasn't been sort of tainted yet by Sovereign. He has been tainted by indoctrination yet, so his mind is still clear, he's still operating fully, and that, like, yes, I hate humans, but it's like a means to an end. I have to work with Captain Anderson even though I don't want to. I will work with him because I've been told I have to. He's a means to an end to kind of get what I want, and that all in itself is quite fascinating. And as well as Captain Anderson, the same thing. Now you learn more about him being sort of a top candidate for the N7 program, being one of the best special forces candidates there has been in a very, very long time, and that he was going to be a Spectre, that he was up for the running, but it's because Saren basically told him a bunch of lies and sort of how can I explain it? He told him a lot of lies and a lot of veiled truths. So told the truth, but it wasn't the full truth. That the council decided that humanity wasn't ready, and that Captain Anderson wasn't a viable candidate for being a Spectre, which is a shame, really, because Anderson would have been a terrific Spectre. But then again, if he had become a Spectre, then Shepard wouldn't have become the first human Spectre, and that wouldn't have been a big important thing in the first game. But still, Captain Anderson's character, he's very fascinating. He's very interesting. He is in the games anyway, but to kind of get a story that focuses mostly on him and his early days, and him sort of before he's a captain, just taking a squad, being a soldier, being a grunt, being on the fields, that sort of thing, is quite interesting. Then you have Kali, the Doctor. Where she plays a big part in the coming books as well. She's not just a one note sort of character. She is a recurring character in the next few novels. But as an introduction here, she works really well. She has a lot more to do, in my opinion, in the next few books, but she's more front and center. In this one, she's doing a lot of sort of running, hiding, and being protected by sort of Seren, or well, mostly by Anderson, really. Seren just wants to use her to get what he wants, really, and he doesn't care if she dies in the main run. He's like, listen, I will use you as bait, and he does, and he really doesn't give a shit. But Anderson's more so wanting to protect her, but there's a bit of a romance there as well. Overall, sort of the plot and the story, it does a fantastic job of setting up the first game. And it's also setting up the world of Mass Effect. The things I love about Mass Effect, the things that drew me in so much, is just because how huge it is. It's not just like here's your story. It's not linear. It's not just like here's a few characters and that sort of thing. It's the fact of there's politics. There is democracy. There is different races. Each race has their own customs, and I have been one of these people who will sit and read the codexes and learn more about the Asari, the Taurians, the Solarians, the Krogans, the Rachni, the Krogan Rebellion. You know, all of this sort of stuff, the Genophage, the Rachni Wars, the First Contact War, the Geth, the Quarians, you know, all these different races, they're absolutely fascinating, right? And I want to learn more about them. Even like the people like Volus, where like you get the Volus, where like because they live in such a high pressure world that whenever they leave the their planet, they have to wear suits. Kind of like the Quarians. The Quarians can only live in certain atmosphere, and the only atmosphere they could live on is their home planet. But the home planet is occupied by Geth, so they are basically like a traveling sort of gypsy kind of like traveler through, and like people don't like them, and they lost their all credibility because the Geth. They lost their seat on the council because of the Geth and all that sort of stuff. So this whole history and all this politics and all the law, to me, is absolutely fascinating. And the universe is ever expanding as it is. You know, this whole Milky Way galaxy is so huge, and there's so much going on. There's so many different races. And obviously the games do a fantastic job of really getting you into it, with the DLC do it as well. But as I've mentioned, if you're going to do external media like books, like comics, like graphic novels, audiobooks, whatever it is, they have to expand on what's already there. They've got to build off what's already there, and the games already do a terrific job of that. It's one of the rare options where the game does enough to kind of set the scene and everything that any external media is just bonus content, in my opinion. And that's why I see anything from Mass Effect is like, if you read any of the graphic novels, if you read any of the books, it's all just bonus content. It's more book bang for your buck. You know, you don't have to really read this book if you don't want to. You could easily go and play the first Mass Effect game, like I did, and enjoy it for what it is, and never read any of the books. But if you do read it, you get a bit of bonus information, bit of like you learn more about Saren, where he come from, why he hates humanity. You learn more about Dr. Anderson. You learn more about AI. You learn more about the universe and that sort of thing. And the whole AI story is a big component with the Mass Effect trilogy, and it's a really big component in Mass Effect Andromeda. So it does a perfect job of setting the scene and building it up, you know. And for that, it's incredible. So yeah, my overall thoughts is the fact of if you're a Mass Effect fan and you haven't read this book and you want to read it, I highly recommend it or giving it a go. You will have a fantastic time. And like I said, even if you decide to skip this one and you go straight to the main game, that's completely fine as well. This book is mostly just here to introduce you to the world, to a few of the characters, get you sort of in. Instead of being like where the game kind of throws you in the deep end quite quickly, but in such a way where like you're thrown in, but you're given sort of like a buoyancy aid, so at least you can float and sort of make your way around while you're learning to swim. This is more so sort of dipping your toes in, and it eases you in, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for an easy way into Mass Effect and getting to know the world and understand how it all works, the book is a fantastic launch pad. Otherwise, by all means, you can go straight into the game. So it's up to you. That's my final sort of thoughts on it, is the fact of it's up to you, whatever floats your boat. If you're more of a book reader, then go with the book. But if you want to play the game, do that. Either way, they both work perfectly. The next book, which is Mass Effect Ascension, that deals with a lot more sort of stuff. That deals with Cerberus, that deals with brand new characters, deals quite heavily with the Quarians, which I love the Quarians, but we'll get there after I do my Mass Effect review. As I said in the introduction, it'll be a while before that comes. So don't expect it anytime soon, because I like to play that game, even though I've played it multiple times. It's one of them games that I like to do every single thing because it affects the end game of the last game. So I have to do everything. So I can't rush through it, but I'm planning to do something special for my playthrough of Mass Effect of the games. So look forward to that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was enough to tide you over before that review comes. When I get round to playing it, and when that comes out, then I will start the next book, which actually, to believe it or not, the second book actually takes place before Mass Effect 2. So I will play Mass Effect 1, read the second book, then play Mass Effect 2, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, so until next time, until the next Mass Effect episode, thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you for joining me on this book review. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. You've been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast. I've been your host, Luke the Human, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.